Does your narcissist drink? You see, this is one thing it's fairly common from talking to a lot of people in one-on-ones and dealing with narcissistic abuse. Like, they'll bring up, like, oh, by the way, he was also an alcoholic. Or, oh, by the way, like, she couldn't keep out of the bar. She was very much an alcoholic. And they'll be talking more about it, and they'll be like, is this normal? Like, is this how it attaches? And more than often, there's a lot of times that you see narcissism or people with narcissistic traits or toxic traits that struggle with different types of addictions. And alcohol is a very popular addiction that a lot of people struggle with. Sometimes when people are talking about it, they'll say, like, honestly, the only time I felt like they were actually vulnerable or they were even truthful, even for a split second, was when they were drunk. Because after a period of time, like, they get so far drunk or wasted that it lowers their inhibitions and they actually come out and they say what they're actually thinking. Some people think, like, oh, like, they're just being mean when they're drunk. No, there's sometimes that people are just being honest. And that's the hard reality of, like, is that actually what's going on in that person's mind? Well, if they have narcissistic traits or antisocial or sociopath, like, yeah, that probably is what's going on. But it just lowers their filters so they finally actually say what they're actually thinking or what actually is there. So with narcissism, a lot of times you have an obsessive nature. A lot of times obsessive about themselves, obsessive about what they think, what they want, what they need. And oftentimes that turns into other venues of addiction. Alcohol is a pretty big addiction that a lot of narcissists struggle with. Sometimes it's how it comes out, as far as it comes out in rage, it comes out in frustration, it comes out in honesty, different times, things like that. Or sometimes that's just status quo. Like, that's what they do. They just drink, or they're alcoholic, or they're obsessed with that. It doesn't have to be just alcohol. It could be anything. So there's narcissists who are obsessed or addicted to pornography, that are addicted to drugs, that are addicted to sex, that you name it. Like, there's different things out there. Addicted to work, like, whatever it might be. There's many addictions that go hand in hand, in one sense, with the concept of narcissism or people with narcissistic traits. Now, oftentimes that's because they're so obsessive in nature. And that obsession comes out in, like, the love bombing phase, where they're locked onto one person and they're going to try to do whatever they can to secure that supply. Well, sometimes they get locked in on one addiction and they're going to keep going back to that because it gives them that dopamine hit, or it gives them that little high, or it gives them what they're focused on in that moment. So they're going to keep going back to it and keep that addiction going. I had someone just the other day that asked me, they were like, do you drink? Or, like, do you have addictions? And I was like, yes, I've struggled with addictions. Drinking has not been one of them. And the reason why is because I learned and I know early on in my life that I have an addictive and obsessive nature. It happens when I lock onto a new supply. It happens when I've had affairs. It happens when I'm with certain people. Like, I know about myself, like, workaholic. Like, definitely, like, when I was with Chick-fil-A, workaholic was a huge thing. Like, 60 hours, 80 hours, that kind of thing. Like, I was addicted to it. And I was obsessive over it. So I know if I'm going to pick up a bottle and start drinking, I'm going to get hooked. I'm going to get addicted to it. I just know that. I just know that about myself. So as a result, I don't. Could I actually figure out and, like, do I have, like, an actual belief about it? Do I have a conviction about it? Do I have, like, all these things of, like, why I'm not going to drink? No, I don't. Literally, I just know, hey, my nature is obsessive and addictive. So if I pick up that bottle, I'm probably not going to put it back down. So as a result, I made the choice a long time ago, I'm not going to pick up that bottle because it's not worth it. I've got too much to do, too many things to do, too many places to go, too many people to see. This is my mindset then, to be sidetracked by that because I'll get obsessed with it. I'll get addicted to it. A lot of narcissists struggle with addictions. If you dealt with a narcissist or a toxic person that you saw a lot of addictive stuff, leave a comment below. Just let people know, hey, you're not alone. Like, they struggled with it as well. I struggle with it as well. Whatever it might be, because there's a lot of people that see this on a day-to-day basis of alcoholism, of drugs, of pornography, of sex, like whatever it might be, that becomes a severe addiction and ends up damaging and destroying lives. Addictions can be really huge on that. A lot of times a narcissist will have addictions in their lives to sedate how they're truly feeling. You see, as a narcissist, if I'm dealing with shame, if I'm dealing with guilt, if I'm dealing with hurt, if I'm dealing with stuff that I never let anybody else see, but I know internally, hey, I'm messed up, something's not right, I don't connect, I don't respond, I don't emote, like all this type of stuff, I know that there's something wrong. If I start feeling that shame, then I got to figure out how I can get rid of it. Easiest way to get rid of it, quick, is a quick emotion, is a quick jumping into something, whether that's jumping into rage or whether it's jumping into addiction. If I can emote it out, if I can yell, if I can rage, if I can throw things, then maybe I'll get that shame out. I think what happens is as soon as that happens, you end up feeling more shame and it just spirals down even more. Same thing with addiction. It's a very addictive in nature because it's going to spiral out even more because you do the addictive nature. So you go get drunk, then you wake up and you feel bad because you're like, oh, like I shouldn't have done that. I just wasted the day. I just hurt this person, whatever it might be. And then you feel bad, and as a result, you start to feel that shame. You don't want to feel that shame, so then you go back to the addiction. Same thing with pornography. Same thing with sex addicts. Same thing, like that addictive cycle gets so stuck on people where all they're going to do is just continue the cycle over and over and over again because in their mind, it's a lot easier to sedate than it is to be truthful. That's what I thought. I thought it was a lot easier to lie to my wife, to lie to others, to lie to my job, to lie to my boss, to lie to God, to lie to myself, than it was to actually be real and be honest. So I'd feel that shame, then I'd go to those addictive natures. I'd go try to hook up with someone. I'd go start another relationship. I'd go to pornography. I'd go to gambling. Like whatever it'd be, that would be what I'd go to because I don't want to feel what I'm feeling, so I got to figure out how to get rid of it as fast as possible. The fastest way possible is to go into some addictive cycle so that I don't think about it in that moment. And I'm going to push it aside and I'm going to run from it as quick as I can. Because in a narcissist mind, it's so much easier to lie than it is to be honest. It's so much easier to get into an addiction than it is to identify with shame. It's so much easier to go and get a hit off of someone else or a high off of something else than it is to actually own up and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is the shame that I'm feeling. They don't do that. They don't get honest. They don't be honest about who they are, what's happening, who they've hurt, and they don't own up to it. To have accountability, repentance, and to continue moving forward, they don't do that. I didn't do that for years. Never wanted to do that because I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. So I'd rather lie, gaslight, manipulate, cheat, go back to addictive behaviors, like whatever I needed to do to sedate myself to not feel what was actually inside. The shame and the guilt of who I was and what I'd done and who I'd become. If you like what you see here, please follow me. Please subscribe on YouTube. Please go on to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Reach out over on podcasts. We got Apple's podcast, got Spotify. Would love to have you listen in. Got a couple things on there that aren't on these videos, so would love to have you listen in. If you're in a narcissistic relationship and you want to talk, please reach out. Go to rawmotivations.com, click on the one-on-ones, grab a time on there so that we can actually sit down and be able to talk. And a lot of times what I help you walk through is the trauma bond or like closure or like things you're dealing with, because oftentimes the narcissist puts you in such a fog, you're not able to know what's up or down, what's right or left. You can't figure out like what's actually going on. So we start talking about your feelings, start diving into your emotions, start dealing with the fable that you're telling yourself, and then we compare it to the facts. And as we start doing that, we start realizing, hey, as we acknowledge the facts, as we acknowledge the truth about the situation, that's what starts to give you freedom. That's what starts clearing the fog. That's what starts making it easier and simpler and more clear to actually know, hey, this is the path of growth. This is the path of healing. Because you can't do that when you're stuck in the fog. You can't do that when you don't know what direction to go. You can't do that when you've been lied to, manipulated, gaslit, and abused so much that you can't tell right from left. So I talk to a lot of people with that. If you're interested in joining a community that is about healing and growth, then come on and join the NARC app. You can grab it on rawmotivations.com, or you can go and you can download it on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. It literally is just NARC. N.A.R.C. Has the periods. I don't like it, but I didn't realize that when I made it that you had to have the periods. But it's got the periods on it, so if you search for it, NARC with periods in between, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. That's what it is. There's people on there that are encouraging, that are speaking positivity into your life, that are helping uplift you whenever you're doubting yourself or worried about going no contact. There's trackers in there to be able to put in, hey, this is my truth for the day. This is the thing I'm remembering today to help keep me safe from my abuser. There's no contact tracker. Hey, I'm going to log in today. Today is day 10. No contact. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. Today's day 11. Plug in 11. Say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. The community is there to be able to help you grow. There's aspects on there that you can take courses, you can learn about narcissism, you can do exercises that actually help you start scripting out your feelings, the facts, the fable, like that's new on there as well. And it's a tool to be able to help you, to be able to get awareness, to be able to grow, to be able to change, to be able to heal, and to better yourself the best possible. So if you're interested in that, go to rawmotivations.com. We got the one-on-ones, we got the podcast, we got the videos, we got the app. All of it's linked on there. Feel free to follow, give us some support, and just help spread awareness about narcissism and what it does to people.